I'm Ritu Gupta, founding CEO of Cirkled In. This is next in our series of podcasts where we talk to college admission officers all over the country about impact of COVID on higher education, especially admissions, enrollment, and recruitment. And we have been lucky to have many experienced people who have shared their insights with all of you. Hopefully, these have been helpful. Today, we have with us Anna Meyer from Colby Sawyer College. Colby Sawyer is a private college in New London, New Hampshire, and Anna is the Vice President for Admissions and Financial Aid. She has been there over 5 years and in the industry almost 20. So I think we are going to have a lot of fun asking Anna all these questions that we have on our plate, in our mind. So Anna, thank you to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just get started. I can't wait to talk to you. Of course, COVID, nobody expected this to be happening in 2020. 2020 totally, instead of bringing clarity of 2020 vision, it brought more uncertainty and that we have never experienced before. When it comes to colleges and higher education, definitely Corona upended the whole system. From virtual spring quarter to now possibly fully virtual fall quarter is what you guys are dealing with. Almost on daily basis and weekly basis, your challenges are changing. Right now, probably focus is on operational aspects of fall 2020. That not only includes like how do we bring them on the campus if we do, but also how many students will show up on first day of the fall quarter. Normally by this time, 2021, enrollment has kicked off in a typical year, but of course this is not a typical year. We want to look forward, trying to understand the recruitment landscape moving forward, fall 2021 and beyond, because we think that COVID is going to change some of the practices permanently. So that is something we want to talk about today, not necessarily the operational aspects of fall 2020, which are equally important, but we will deal with that as we come across. So as we go through this conversation, keep that in mind that fall 2021 and onwards is our focus on recruitment and enrollment. Okay, first question. In handling COVID as a pandemic at a higher education industry, what do you think was the biggest shock to the system where we were least prepared?
Sure. I think it's amazing to think we were watching, and then time to shut down. And, you know, we're not inviting students back from spring break and we're all going home. And higher ed, we're a traditional college, campus-based in the mountains and lakes region of New Hampshire. You know, we don't have online programs that are traditionally underground, aside from several continuing education programs for nursing. And so we're not having an admitted student day. And what do we do with visitors? And, you know, from my seat, it was pretty shocking. And I think one of the hardest things was to transition to life online and to transition not just to remote learning, but to remote working. You know, we're all used to rolling in at 8 a.m. and leaving at 5 and having lunch together and having meetings in person, and that all had to stop. And yet, in the most important time of year from an enrollment perspective, yielding a class. How do you yield a class when all of a sudden we had to figure out how to work remotely and educate our students? So there was a lot of transition and a lot of change. And what do we do in lieu of an admitted student day and in lieu of people coming and visiting to campus? So we had to mobilize very, very quickly, and that was very challenging. You know, I like to consider myself now an expert in Zoom, when meanwhile I was like, okay, let me create an account, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, Microsoft Teams and Zoom, and we're all doing different things and GoToWebinars more so than ever before. And not just to watch something recorded, but to go live. So that was a big transition for us, I think for everyone.
Yes. And I think you coined this phrase, I like it, life online. Which is very different than life on campus. Right. And we have talked about like how the online learning transition was hard, but I think you're bringing another good component where as a team, you had to learn how to work remotely and still be more collaborative and achieve your goals. Yes, I think that is something probably every campus struggled with or probably still are working through that. So digital. COVID brought us all to life online, like you said. Most colleges had to switch spring quarter to online, and of course now fall is also like very uncertain conditions, whether it will be in person or online. When you look at the pre-COVID world and compare where we are today in terms of technology, did you expect higher ed to adopt technology this quickly and this fast?
I didn't. I was amazed at how quickly things moved from more traditional campuses, for sure. For us, I look at it, COVID is a terrible pandemic, but it's really given us pause to rethink how we work, how we approach our work. It's given us the time to really reflect upon what do, a person in my seat, what do prospective students need right now? The reassurances that they needed. For students who had already deposited, how do we keep them assured that this was the right choice? If you had deposited in January or February and May and June were coming and here we are all remote, how do we keep those students engaged? One thing I will say that was kind of the silver lining in the cloud is we quickly adapted. We started offering more virtual experiences. We became, like I said, Zoom experts. We started scheduling regular appointments to talk to admissions counselors through Zoom. And I think, when we think about beyond COVID, but we created more access. I think we created more ways for students to connect with us. And, I think for many years, students started only visiting the campuses they were admitted to, and so they weren't visiting. So now there's more opportunity to visit earlier than maybe they had over the last few years. So I think we've really adapted a number of practices and more access to researching colleges and connecting with your counselor and to do the process sooner.
Yeah, and you are right on that. That is something that has come up in every conversation we have had, that it has increased access in many ways. I have a rising senior myself, and it's amazing for me to see how many virtual tours she has taken, even to the colleges that there's no way we could have visited. Because when you visit, you are really limited due to budget, time, and all of that constraints. So now that is taken off the equation. Now you can virtually attend any college. You can visit any college. So that's a good segue into my next question. How do you think this digital evolution will help or hinder the recruitment, enrollment, and admissions work that you do?
I think the biggest thing is the lack of standardized testing that's taking place. So I think we're all trying to find ways to win over a limited pool of students that's out there or that's known to us. So I think we're all trying to find ways to engage. So I fear that the students might get more digital onslaught than they ever expected. Their inboxes and their social media accounts with advertising and the creative approaches that colleges are taking to reach them. And so I think it's going to be interesting that if anything, their head's going to be spinning even more with all their options. So I think colleges are really going to be focusing on how to distinguish themselves and establish themselves as a unique option. So I think that, these students are just going to see a lot of college ads in their Insta and TikTok and Snapchat feeds. I think we're all striving for pole position at this point.
Yeah, and I guess that's your new tool in your toolbox, right? So what other new tools and strategies and processes are you envisioning that you will be adding in your recruitment toolbox?
Sure. One thing that we did actually this past spring was, in the midst of all this, when I mentioned earlier, how do you keep students interested and connected, was we really wanted to do kind of what you're doing with this podcast right now. We wanted to create an opportunity for students to get an inside look. So we did this live series, which we recorded and then archived, called The Tea on Tuesdays. And so at 4 o'clock we had tea. We spilled the tea on different subjects. So we would have sessions with coaches and athletic directors. We did a session with residential education, so you could meet resident assistants and what it's like to live on campus. We had sessions with recent graduates, a young alumni panel. We had sessions with parents of students, current students and alums. What's it like to be a parent of a student at Colby Sawyer? We had a session with the president, so we had tea with the president. So we kind of created almost our own little mini series and gave students an inside look. So every week there was a different topic, and it was really fun because some weeks it was, we'd see a lot of the same students. They were really engaged and really interested, or some weeks it would just be all different crowds. And then it's available for viewing still. We uploaded all the videos so students can go back and take a look and learn about something that's important to them, something that might interest them specifically. So I think that's the stuff you have to do. You have to reach them where they are and reach out to these students. Video is very popular. Make it digestible, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and give them something that they didn't either see because they couldn't tour, or answer the questions they couldn't ask when they didn't get to campus. So it really gave them a forum to kind of dive deeply. And I think that adopting those technologies, made it easy through Zoom, and it made it easy through our website and through advertising, through our emails, and it gave students an inside look.
Yeah, no, that's very smart actually. I think bringing recent alums and current students is a really good strategy, because then these prospective students can envision themselves at your campus and firsthand learn the experience of people who are going through your college and your campus. That's actually really smart.
I hope
so. You mentioned about SAT that came up, and COVID has definitely accelerated the adoption of test optional strategy. In fact, we published an article where we said COVID was the final nail in the coffin of standardized testing. I think as of last week, 2/3 of colleges have made SAT, ACT optional, and many colleges have basically totally, completely moved away from it, not just for next 2 years, but forever. Mm-hmm. So what do you think will be the future of these standardized testing, or this method of measuring students by one number in 5 years?
I think it's a very interesting point. We've been test optional for many, many years. Honestly, even before I came here, I couldn't tell you when. However, we did require it for our nursing program. We have a top-ranked nursing program here. And as a matter of fact, just today we had the conversation and we made the decision to go test optional for the next year. And of course, the first question is, what are we going to look at in lieu of those scores? What's important? And so we're going to be meeting to talk more about what information are we collecting, what information do students provide, what are the profiles of successful students. So I think it's really giving people an opportunity to just think beyond the way we've always done things. I think if you've been historically reliant upon standardized testing to make your final decision or make your final choice, I think you're going to spend some time really thinking through looking at students more closely. I think that's where Cirkled In will be great for us as a recent client, to really look at students and the different data points that are available to us. So I'm really excited just to see kind of where this leads us. But what other colleges will do, I'm not sure. But I think it's a growing phenomenon. It's a growing trend. There's a lot of research out there, and there are a lot of colleges that have sworn it has improved their applicant pools and their incoming classes, and has created more diversity. So I think that it'll just be a really transformational year in what the future looks like for standardized testing.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I don't remember name of the college, but one of the college did case study about after going test optional, and they compared the results from when they did require test, and they had improvements in everything, every metric from retention, graduation, diversity, all of those numbers were better when they went test optional, because now you're looking at holistically at a candidate as a student. And you are right, that's why we are excited at Cirkled In about this phenomena, because you do need something else in lieu of SAT, ACT. So where do you go? A holistic portfolio.
Right.
And I, as a parent, I'm totally thrilled by this because, like I said, my rising senior, she's brilliant, but she absolutely panics when it comes to the timed test. Even AP test this time, which were online and timed, was like very difficult for her. So as a parent, I'm feeling really happy that the whole industry is moving towards test optional, because one score should not determine whether a kid is a right fit for your campus or not.
Right.
So,
you know, and those of us who took the test way, way, way back in the day and maybe were disappointed, you know, in their performance, you know, I'd like to think I did okay in life, you know.
Right.
Experience,
and equity is a big component. Like, for example, we Cirkled In is a social enterprise. What we have found is at-risk youth go to college at 30% lower rate because they don't take tests. When colleges start with a test strategy, they miss out on this big population of students who are left behind and they fall through cracks. So yeah, we are also very happy about this trend that's happening. That leads to my next question, new normal. What will new normal look like? Because I think it's changing every day. I don't know about you, but I never expected that we will have virtual fall. When we started back in March, we thought, oh, by fall, everything will be under control. And here we are going into virtual fall most of the times. So in terms of the new normal, what will it look like when it comes to college recruitment and enrollment, like your metrics, your enrollment numbers, because they will be impacted due to virtual classes, right?
So we actually are, we're in a different place. You know, here we are on the East Coast. We're in New Hampshire that has really been able to get a good hold on COVID. And so we're opening in the fall. And we're an entirely residential community, aside from some commuters. But it's required us to really look at so many facets of life on campus. So there's certainly, and you can't possibly think of every possibility that you have to address, but we're addressing as many as we can to ensure a safe return for our students with testing. We're giving every one of our first year students single rooms. You know, we're returning students were given that option as well. Some liked their, you know, staying with their roommate. So, I mean, there's a lot of change, you know, cleaning and buffets in the dining hall. And unfortunately, our conference did cancel sports for the fall season, so that's not happening. But there's so many things you have to address. But I think with recruitment specifically, you know, it's not looking like there's going to be a lot of in-person events, much like there wasn't in the springtime. And so how do we engage students virtually? And we'll have to kind of continue to up our game, I think. I think we need to continue to find the students to reach out to and find how they want to connect. I think we need to absolutely continue to focus on differentiation and meeting the needs of students today. I think the question is, will students return to their high schools in some cases? And what does that mean? Will high schools be inviting us to virtual information sessions and virtual college fairs? How much of that is going to be happening? So I think it's to your point, a watch and wait situation. What's next? You know, what's the next trend in COVID recruitment? You know, I think to your point, things are changing constantly. I think we had to rewrite so many policies on campus and then put in caveats that this policy is subject to review because we have to change with the latest information and we have to change with the latest kind of health and safety concerns. So I think it's just this constant watch and wait. You know, New Hampshire's in a unique position in that we're welcoming through the governor students and visitors and tourists from all New England states. So we're in a unique spot here versus, Texas or Florida. Very different. So I think it's really going to vary depending on geographically where you are, what type of institution you are, how large you are, how small you are, how much. I just think there's different institutions have to respond differently and respond in ways that work for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think change will be the only constant.
Absolutely. I've been saying it for weeks. You took the words out of my mouth.
It's going to change no matter what you are doing today. Next week it may change. And yes, one thing that we talk at Cirkled In when we talk about reaching out to colleges and universities, we are saying that every college and university right now has become a snowflake. Each one is different. There is no pattern magic. You can't say if Colby Sawyer is doing this, University of Florida is doing this. There's absolutely no pattern matching right now. And as for the high schools, I think you are exactly right. That is what happening. You will not have probably an opportunity to visit them in person. No. Like LAUSD announced whole virtual fall, and after that dominoes effect, Washington State has like 4 big school districts, all virtual. So it's going to continue that trend because in high schools, we are talking thousands of kids in a small building. So they don't want to take that risk. So it's going to be interesting to see how colleges, like I'm pretty sure Colby Sawyer can differentiate itself and get in front of these kids, get in front of the right kids, the kids who will be a good fit at your institution. Okay, so one question I have is money. Financial impact.
Sure.
Now in your case, you are in a good position that you have room and board revenue that will be coming in. Especially for colleges who are going virtual, they have much bigger challenge. But in your case, when you do have tuition revenue, looks like your enrollments are doing okay, your room and board revenue will be there. Do you see any other financial impact on your budget? And then on the other side, are students expecting a bigger financial aid check from Colby Sawyer?
It's very interesting. And again, I really think it has to do with where you are in this nation. Now, did the unemployment rate go up in New Hampshire? Is that where most of our students come from? Yes, but not as significantly as you would have expected a few months ago. We always work with families individually on their individual needs and how they've been impacted. Divorce, job loss, those things never change. It may be a little more common, but we haven't seen it as much as you would expect, which is interesting. Now, certainly, as most institutions, we received CARES funding and we distributed to our students that were impacted, and that certainly helped. Put some emergency money in the hands of students to support them in this transition. But we work individually with each family. We haven't seen an across the board, everyone's asking for more money or everyone needs it. We haven't seen that. And we certainly are responding on a case by case basis. That's always the way we've done things. We want to make sure that students can afford a Colby Sawyer education and work with them as much as we possibly can, stretching every endowment dollar we have. But it's certainly not as prevalent, I think, here as in states that have extraordinarily high unemployment rates. So I do think it's going to vary by region as well, how much demand there will be. But will discount rates soar? I think so. I think nationally and across the board, yes. I think compounded, we are going to see more need given the unemployment rate. But there has been some signs of improvement in the unemployment rate in pockets and in places, and hopefully that'll continue. But you never know. We're all talking about this second wave, and what's that going to look like? We're unique in that I mentioned we are opening for the fall, but we're doing a shortened fall semester. So we're going to be sending students home by Thanksgiving, and hopefully they'll be safe at home, and we'll see what happens next for the next spring.
Right. Yeah, I think that is the benefit and advantage of having a smaller population and a private college where you can do that one-on-one. And I think students and families are in really good hands with you and your team with getting that attention and working based on their needs, not just one size fits all. Right. So that's good to hear. Yeah. Looking forward. Okay, 2020, yes. We'll see how that pans out. When are you going to change or shift your focus from 2020 to 2021? Because these juniors, right now rising seniors, they need a lot of help too. They are confused as much as, even current class of coming in. When are you looking to put more focus on 2021 and when 2020 is behind you? What is the timeline?
That's already happened. So yeah, those things come into focus probably last January, February. But we actually start working with students from sophomore year. In the springtime when we first went remote, we actually dedicated one of our admissions counselors and put a little blurb on our website that if you're a sophomore, junior, talk to this counselor. And we tailored the conversation just for sophomores and juniors to kind of help them. And then we reserved our other counselors for the admitted senior students to work with them. So we actually made it very intentional to create opportunity for chatting. Now we're kind of doing it all by major and talking to students, but sending them reassurances, giving them opportunities to connect with us, talking about different ways. We're looking at different social media channels and doing a little bit more. I think it's going to be important to do more live sessions. And again, meet students where they are, Instagram Live and all these great things. So I want to say there's more overlap every year, and this year is no exception. So, you're looking at trying to yield your seniors in the springtime and then you talk to your juniors. Usually we're traveling in March and April into May. So that didn't happen. So it's kind of a constant work in progress, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. If one thing I can see positive from the budget perspective is like you saved all the travel money.
Yes, to invest in technology.
Right, to invest in online and virtual events.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've so many demos in my life as I have the past 6 months, looking at different products and offerings.
Totally, yes, absolutely. I think we all are getting a little bit of Zoom fatigue, as they call it. Yes. Too many Zoom meetings happening. Great. And any last minute thoughts that you would like to share with your community and your peers?
I think it's just to be patient with the constant change. I think, and to try to constantly adapt and evolve. I think that's really what we have to do. Is just what was 3 months ago is not what will be 3 months from now. So I don't think in enrollment over the last 10 years you've been able to predict the future, and I think it's even less predictable now. But I think just giving it our best, trying to meet students where they are, getting creative and just differentiating ourselves is really the goal of getting ahead and to continue the important work that we do with high school students.
Yeah, no, very important, Anna. Thank you. That is a good nugget. It's always, somebody said in our last video interview, it's always good to remember why you are doing what you are doing.
So I don't envy the work of school counselors right now and the challenges that they're facing. I think that they're the unsung heroes in all of this. And so it'll be really interesting to see how much pressure they endure and the unique things that they have to come up with to help these seniors that say, how do I find my college now? And I don't envy their work. I think we all have very difficult work ahead of us, but I think as the fall looms, I think they're going to be faced with new challenges and working with panicky students. So I wish them well as well.
Yes, I totally see that coming from the student and parent side as well, where there's a lot of material coming over email and over video sessions. I don't know how much kids are able to absorb and retain that. So it'll be interesting. I know that rising seniors have their work cut out for them for coming year, how to choose and how to find a good fit college and what major to choose and all of that stuff. But I think with people like you, they are in good hands. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Anna. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing your insights and experiences. And there's always change that's happening. So we may come back to you maybe in 6 months or so, asking for another interview and insights on those issues at that moment, because I'm pretty sure they will be very different than what we have today.
Thanks, Ritu. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.